वाणी निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि श्री गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे सर्वशास्त्रादि पीयूष सर्ववैदिक सत्फल सर्व सिद्धांत रत्नाध्याय सर्वलौकिक दृक्पद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद् भागवतो प्रभु कलिदान्तो तितादित्य श्री कृष्ण परिवर्तिता परमानंद पाठाय प्रेमवश अक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्वसेवाय श्री कृष्णाय नमोस्तुते मद एक बंधु मद संगीन मद गुरु मन महाजन मन निस्तारक मन भाग्य मन आनंद नमोस्तुते असाधु साधुता दायिन अति नीचो चताकर हाना मुंचा कदाचिन प्रेम न रित कंतयोस्पुर ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायण नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी Grantha Bhagavatam ki jai. Okay. Thank you all. Nice to see all of you. Thank you for joining. So we are continuing from Canto 2, Chapter 2. We are in the last section of this chapter. Let's see if anyone would like to share any reflections. We could have like this, maybe two or three reflections, maybe two reflections to start off with. This could be from last time's class or from the reading that we had last week.
Krishna Prabhuji,
Yes.
on verse, I think 28, text 28, I think it describes the details of how a devotee penetrates through, all these layers. And I think the numbers are quite amazing there. It talks about 4 billion miles. And I was reflecting that the power of the soul, sometimes when we speak, we think that it's, we take it very casually. The power of a pure devotee and power of a soul is it cuts through these billions of miles and all these layers. It's very, very powerful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Such a wonderful point, actually. It really makes me think like how we read in Bhagavad Gita, dimension of the soul as 1/10,000, the tip of the hair. You know, imagine, like, that physically, like, okay, so small particle, but consider the power and influence of that particle. That, as Prabhu is very nicely saying, it has the potency to pierce through all the material coverings and to actually go back to God, right? So yeah, very nice point. I'll make some more points, but maybe later on. We'll take one more reflection and then.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we are still in first chapter, Prabhuji. We are catching up. So I really like the point in X30 that common sense is always imperfect, whereas the description in the Shastras is always perfect and complete. I always say, Jishnu, use your common sense, Jishnu, but now it says it's imperfect here.
Like Prabhupada and the purport really makes the point that we say, oh yeah, it is common sense. But the common sense is so limited, right? We have the 4 defects. Each one of us is subjected by the 4 defects. So what is the value of our common sense? And practically we see that something that may seem that, oh yeah, this makes sense. Like maybe a few years back, that was our thinking, but now it's like, oh, how was I even thinking that way? So our thinking keeps changing. So all that keeps changing, and it is actually based on our conditioned nature. But what really is eternal, what is really Sanatana, right? What really matters is our scriptures. So more than common sense, it is a matter of like studying the scriptures. Not that we give away our common sense, but we actually use our common sense in understanding the Shastra.
Mm.
In understanding the Shastra. We use our logic to understand these Shastra. Thank you. Okay, Sri Radhamati, you can say.
Prabhuji, I was confused between the second and the third canto. So I had a point, but I looked back. That was from the third canto morning reading we were reading. But to the one of the things that I was thinking, just extending what Gopinath Acharya Prabhu was saying, that's layers and layers to cut through. But I always feel like when I'll chant in the morning, I feel like our nama that Mahaprabhu gave, that it's just like a rope he's throwing from a helicopter for us to grab. And if we just grab that, that line that goes all the way to New Golok, Goloka Vrindavan, it's just so simple, but it's there for us to grab it. That's how I feel it. Yeah.
Thank you. So there's actually a question on the group. I think Arundhati Mataji asked this question about does a devotee actually have to go through this, piercing these different layers? There's one quote I actually want to read. And why in text number 30 that Prabhupada actually in the purport actually go through the entire process of how we get the Bhakti Lata Beej from the spiritual master. We discussed this last time, right? How there's a process of Shravana, Kirtana, Jal, right? We water it by our Shravana, Kirtana, and how that Bhakti Lata Beej sprouts, and then how the first two leaves are Kleshagni, Shubhada, and then from that it grows. And then as we keep continuing, also we have to make a fence, right? Make a fence. And as we keep continuing on this process, then it actually pierces through the layer, right? The devotion actually pierces through the layer, and finally it finds shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. And there are fruits. Right? What is the fruit? That's the love of God. Right? So for a devotee as such, we don't have to worry so much about that, oh, how will I pierce the earth layer? How will I go to the water layer? How will I go step by step? We don't have to worry about all this, because by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the process is made so simple that Krishna will take care. How he's going to take us back to Godhead, he will take care. Right? So, how we read in coming fourth canto, when Dhruv Maharaj, when he attained perfection, what happened? A spiritual airplane came from Vaikuntha to actually take him back home. So if you see in the study what we are reading, whether that's a person meditating through attaining Krama Mukti by meditation through Virat Rupa, or by meditation on Paramatma, which is actually more advanced, in both the cases, yes, there is some aspect. But in the aspect of bhakti, it is Krishna is actually sending a airplane from Vaikuntha to actually take us home back to God. So we don't have to worry. The devotees who will come with the Vaikuntha plane, they will take care. We just have to keep seated and continue and seva to Krishna. The devotee does not have to worry. So, and one more question, actually one quote I quickly want to read. So Prabhupada says, if we simply place ourselves at the lotus feet of Krishna by taking to Krishna consciousness and keeping always in touch with him by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So first is we simply place ourselves at the lotus feet of Krishna by taking to Krishna consciousness and keeping always in touch with him by chanting Hare Krishna. We need not take much trouble in arranging to return to the spiritual world. We need not take much trouble in arranging to return to the spiritual world. By the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is very easy. So this is from the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam 7:15-53. So by mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we don't have to worry. And also one may ask the question that why in the first canto? In first canto, who are the personalities of, we have already discussed, who where to describe how they left their body? Anyone wants to unmute or just put on the chat?
Bhishma
Bhishma Dev, okay. And
Narad Muni?
Narad Muni, okay. Yeah, in his previous lifetime, how he actually left. But there's not so much description of how he left. It just says like, okay, that was last day of previous day of Brahma, and then in this day he actually comes as one more
Pandavas.
Pandavas, yes, right. Even in the Pandavas, how it is Yudhishthir, and also Bhishma Pitha. In both the cases, it's actually described how the devotee goes through the different layers. But then one may say, like, they both are pure devotees, Mahajanas. Right? Bhishma Deva is Mahajana. Why he had to go through this process of merging? Hmm? So Prabhupada actually makes the point, like in one of his purports here in the section, that he says, at that time, during that period, it was easy for people to actually understand and go through these different layers. People had knowledge of how to raise the prana from one chakra to other. It was common knowledge. Like people know, yeah, that's how I can do it. So for that time, because that was like a normal uh, knowledge that people had, so by that they actually went through the process, though it was actually not necessary. So Bhagavatam, because it's talking of the incidences which happened at that time, it's actually referring how they actually went through the merging process, and that way they got liberated. Right? So one way Bhagavatam, the information is timeless, but at the same time, at a particular time, what is the nature of the person? Based on that, some certain principles are also described. So they had that potency to do it, and so do it, right? But in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna clearly says, a devotee does not have to worry. But at the time, place, or process, his absorption is Krishna, Krishna will take care. So that's okay. So any comments, questions up to this point? Okay, I know there are some questions in the group. We'll finish this chapter, maybe then we'll come back to some questions. Anything else?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for clarifying my doubt. Yeah, what the statement made by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very, very reassuring.
Yes.
And the example you gave for Dhruva Maharaj, Haribol, thank you so much. Prabhuji, I opened the purport 7:15:53, did you say? I could not find that. If I probably I misheard.
7:15. Anyway, I'll find it. I'll post it in the group.
Oh, no problem, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Okay, so should we proceed? So last time we actually read up to text number 32, right? So that 32 text is completing that section of how Astanga Yogi, and we talked of two different kinds of Astanga Yogi, right? One who actually meditates on Paramatma, one who meditates on Virat Rupa, and this chapter is talking of how they both attain liberation. Right? So is this entire point clear? Any questions up to this point about this two processes? Because this actually really completes that entire section of Astanga Yoga. And then we move on further. Like further in Bhagavatam, we'll come back to Astanga Yoga, but in this section, we are already done. In this few chapters, we are done with this. So let's continue. We'll so after describing text 32, he basically makes a point. Ete Shriti te Nripa Veda Gite. So basically says Sukdev Goswami is saying that Tvaya Abhipraste. You asked me these questions. Like you were curious to know about about who is the Dharana Ashraya. Right? You remember in the first chapter at the end, Parikshit Maharaj asked this question, who is Dharana Ashraya? So based on your question, I have given this knowledge, but how is this knowledge? This knowledge is actually Veda Gita. This is according to the version of the Vedas. And then he further says that actually even Krishna gave the same knowledge to Brahma. And when did he give this knowledge to Brahma? When he was pleased by Brahma's austerities. So even in this, there is the word tushta. So if you remember the first verse of this chapter, what is the key point there? That it is using the example of Brahma, but there also it is actually saying that Brahma pleased the Lord, tushta. Similarly, that same word comes here in text 32, tushta. That the whole process is saying that, yes, Krishna reveals the knowledge, but when does that happen? When we actually do our spiritual practices for the pleasure of Krishna. So even when we are doing a regular sadhana, we should always keep this point. That why are we doing what we are doing? Finally, to give pleasure to Krishna. So hence, in both in the first verse of the chapter and text 32, it says, Aha tushta aradito bhagavan. Tushta means he actually aradito. He does his worship to the Lord for what? Tushta, to give pleasure to him. Right? So always remember this point. That whatever you are doing in bhakti, our main thing is to give pleasure to Guru and Guru. Okay. So now let's continue. So basically, he is given whatever I given, it is there from the Vedas. Krishna has revealed it to Brahma, so the proof is there. So this is not something I am just telling on my own. This is actually there in the Vedic knowledge. Okay, text 33. So now the last section is basically again, Sukadeva Goswami is giving his own opinion. Right? He's saying, yeah, I have described Astanga Yoga. I've talked of how they get liberation, but finally, what is the essence? What is the final conclusion of the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So he actually talks about that. So text 33, let's do a Sanskrit. Let's see. So maybe someone can start. Okay, Arundhati Mati, we can start. And then we can go to Varshana.
Sure. Text 33. Nahyatonyah Shivaha Pantaha Vishatah Samsritva Iha Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yogo Yato Bhavet. Translation: for those who are wandering in the material universe, there is no more auspicious means of deliverance that what is aimed at in the direct devotional service of the Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna.
So this is one of the verses for memorization. This is, right? So Nahi Atonya Shiva Panta. Shiva means what? Auspicious. Right? Pantaha means path. So that is actually after giving that whole Astanga Yoga. What is Sukadeva Goswami saying? Actually, there is no other auspicious path. No other auspicious path. Then what? Okay, then Vishata Samsmritaya. For those who are actually, Vishata means wandering in this material world. For those who are wandering in this material world, there is no other auspicious path than what? Vasudeva Bhagavati. Right? To actually engage in Bhakti Yoga Yato Bhave. To actually engage in Bhakti Yoga, direct devotional service to Vasudeva Krishna. Right? So, here Sukadeva Goswami is making the point. Yes, I have talked about Astanga Yoga, and then from starting, he talked of Paramatma meditation, he talked of Virat Rupa, and he's talked of all these different processes. And then initially he started by comparing with like materialists, right? And after describing everything, he's actually saying that, well, if you talked of the real auspicious path, there is no other auspicious path than worship of doing Bhakti Yoga to Vasudeva Krishna. Why is that? Why is only Bhakti the most auspicious path compared to other processes like Astanga Yoga or worship of the demigods or any other process? Why Bhakti Yoga is actually the only auspicious path?
Because it pleases Krishna.
Okay, it pleases Krishna. Okay.
It's nature of the soul.
It is a very nice point. So it is actually the nature of a soul is actually engaging in devotion service. Okay, anything else?
And everything is sanctioned by Krishna. So whatever our desires are, if we worship Krishna, Krishna can directly give us. Eh?
Okay, so
Our desire is to please Krishna, to serve Krishna, to be in association of Krishna. Then the Bhakti Yoga is the direct path, right? We say that it's an elevator.
So here, Prabhupada in Bhakti Yoga, he actually translates as direct devotional service. So actually, one way that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually explains that why Bhakti is the only auspicious path. Because in Astanga Yoga, what was the result of Astanga Yoga? One, if you're going through Virat Rupa meditation, then the result is impersonal liberation. If you're going through Paramatma realization, then yes, that is another form of liberation depending on what is the consciousness of that person. Right? But what is the result of bhakti? In bhakti, do we actually talk about liberation? No. What is the result of bhakti? Bhakti, the result of bhakti is prema.
Yes.
None of the other processes are actually talking about the real thing that we are actually looking for, which is actually Krishna prema. And because bhakti gives that highest result of Krishna prema, which is beyond, which is beyond the concept of liberation. Hence, bhakti yoga is the only auspicious. Right? I mentioned this verse, this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. It says, um, Krishna, prema dhana vina vyartha daridra jivan. Without that Krishna prem, it says our life is vyartha, daridra. It is like poor. We are poor if we don't have the love for Krishna. Right? And the second line actually is saying, actually, Vetan Kori, make me, Dasa Kori Vetan More, Deha Krishna prem. Right? So make me your own servant. And when you make me a servant, give me salary. What is the salary? Of Krishna prem. So because no other auspicious path, no other path gives that Krishna prema, which is actually Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has established that the highest perfection, what we are actually looking for is prema pumartha, which is actually beyond the four purusharthas of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Right? So previously he talked of moksha, right? But beyond these four is actually prema. Right? Dharma projita kaitavatro parmonyama. Rejecting all these, the only thing is prema, that one. And bhakti actually gives that. Okay. So the result of this bhakti is something which cannot be obtained by any other process, and hence it makes bhakti the only auspicious path. Right? Okay, Prabhupada in the purport actually says that only direct devotional service is the only absolute and auspicious means of deliverance. So, what is the meaning of auspiciousness? We are saying that there is no other auspicious path than bhakti. What does auspicious mean? We use this commonly, right? We say, oh, you have a very auspicious life.
Something good for you.
Special, like special.
Material
Something
contamination.
good, something special. But
Purity.
you can say even if someone has taken any spiritual path, that is good.
Yeah, I think.
It is different from at least the 99.9% of the people who are just engaged in sense gratification. So it is special that way. What is unique about auspiciousness? So Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he defines auspiciousness. And he actually says there are four characteristics of auspiciousness. First is, it is when we actually take up that process, it benefits everyone. Everyone is benefited. If you become a devotee, everyone, the whole world is benefited. Right? So benefit everyone. Then second, it attracts everyone. Right? Later on, we'll read, actually next chapter, where even, we have actually already read this, right? Where it actually says, even those who are Atma Ramasya Munayo, they are attracted to what? Bhakti. And later on, we'll read that even Gyanis in the third chapter, that even Gyanis, they actually take up. So bhakti is one that attracts everyone. Gyanis are attracted, the Atma Ramas are attracted, everyone is attracted. But you cannot say that for the others, other processes. Right? A Gyani may not be attracted to Astanga Yoga. It's like, that's not what I want to do. Or so only bhakti is something that attracts them. Then third is bhakti actually produces good results. Bhakti produces good results. So yastyasi bhakti bhagavati akinchana sarver gunes tatra. Actually, all good qualities, sarver gune tatra samasaten sura. Actually, all the good qualities of demigods are actually obtained through bhakti. Now, one may say, what about jnana? What about astanga? Actually, it says that when actually one performs like austerities or one is just on this path of jnana, one could actually become hard-hearted, because in these processes there's so much focus on detachment from matter that one could actually really become like hard-hearted. But that's not the quality we are looking for bhakti. Bhakti, we actually want to become soft-hearted. Our heart should melt when we hear about Krishna. Right? So third is it produces good qualities, and fourth, it actually gives the highest happiness. So 4 qualities Rupa Goswami is actually there in the first chapter of Bhakti Rasamrita. He says it benefits everyone, it attracts everyone, it produces good qualities, and bestows highest happiness. And in that section, Prabhupada, Rupa Goswami is explaining, and Prabhupada in the Nectar of Devotion, he talks about like how the happiness that is obtained from devotional service, that is the highest, and he compares it even if you compare to Brahmananda. So previously, any kind of liberation, like let's say impersonal liberation, he said even that happiness of Brahmananda, if that is multiplied millions of times, that will not compare to one drop of happiness one gets in devotion. So there's no comparison to happiness one gets in devotion. Right? So because all these 4 qualities can only be said to the process of devotional service, and devotional service is the only auspicious. So sometimes people come and they say like, "Oh, can you pray for me?" And you can say, "Yes, I pray for you that you have a very auspicious life." Now people will think that, "Oh, such a nice benediction," and he may think that auspicious means like, yeah, good money, good house, and everything. But we know that the only auspicious is what? We are praying that they take up bhakti yoga, they take up devotion. So we can also say, we'll pray you have an auspicious life. That means we'll take up devotion. So, okay. Now in the purport also, Prabhupada, he actually establishes how bhakti yoga is the highest of all. So can devotees unmute and say from Bhagavad Gita, what are the verses that concludes that bhakti is the highest? Prabhupada in the purport, he quotes 5 different verses. And all famous verses. So anyone would like to unmute and just quickly go?
Bhaktya Mama Vicharat.
Bhaktya Mama, only by devotion so one can know Krishna. Very nice. Okay, next. 6th chapter, last verse.
Yogesham apisa. Yoginam apisarvesham madhyate antaratmanah.
Shraddhavan Bhayati Yoma. So Krishna says of all yogis, the best is devotion service. So Prabhupada actually quotes that 647. Then what else? Another verse Prabhupada frequently quotes is Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapadante. Right? So Prapadyate, they actually finally, even those who are Gyanis, they actually only after thousands of births they actually take the devotion service. And then also Prabhupada quotes like, what about impersonalists? And he quotes like Kleshodi Karatas Tesham Avyakta Shaktasesam 12 chapter text 5. He says like those who take to the impersonal meditation is very difficult, very troublesome part. But devotional service is very easy. Right? So all these verses, actually we should know them by heart. Because we meet people, we talk to them, we have these verses as tools like, okay, you're talking of impersonal meditation. Krishna is clearly saying, 12 chapter text 5, Kleshodi Karatas Sesham. Why would you actually do that when bhakti is actually better? Right? And then people talk of, oh, no, meditation, Astanga Yoga, that is what we should do. It says, well, at the end of Astanga Yoga, after describing what is Krishna saying, Yogi Namapi Sarvesham Madhyatinanta. And then finally, what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Sarva dharma parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Give up all your so-called dharmas. Finally, the point is to surrender. To actually take up. So Prabhupada actually gives all these quotes, and he also says in Bhagavad Gita, in Bhagavatam, in the first canto, right, either direct bhakti yoga or the means which ultimately culminate in bhakti yoga is actually recommended. So what is this section Prabhupada is referring to? Like in the purport, if you see last but one paragraph, second paragraph, it says, as already explained in the text of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, either direct bhakti yoga or the means which culminate in bhakti yoga. So what is Prabhupada referring to? First canto, where did it establish bhakti?
Pumsam paradharma.
Yes.
Yado bhakti,
So
yado akshara.
that is that. And after that, he actually says, or the means which ultimately culminate in bhakti yoga. What does that mean? Like in that section, Savai Pumsam Paradharma, after that, what did he say? It says, Dharma Sonasita Pumsam Vishwaksena Katasya Na Utpad Yadi Radim Shrama Eva. So even if you do Varnashram Dharma, unless it actually gives you that attraction for the hearing of Krishna Katha, it is Shrama Eva. And finally, last sentence, he says, other Acharya, Sridhar Swami, other Acharya, Jeev Goswami, they agree Bhakti Yoga is not only easy, simple, natural, free from trouble, but is the only source of happiness for the Like Prabhupada actually said, Sarve Sukhino Bhavantu. We want everyone to be happy. But what is the process by which everyone can become happy? Only devotion. When Krishna is pleased, everyone is pleased. Like when you water the root of tree, all branches, twigs, everyone. Okay, so next one, text. It's okay, this verse. So this is an important verse in verse for memorization. So yeah, Shiva. Text 34. Varshan Prema.
Bhagwan Brahma Kartashne Trira Avikshaya Manishaya Tad Adyavashyat Kutasto Ratir Atmana Yato Bhavet. Translation: The great personality Brahma, with great attention and concentration of the mind, studied the Vedas 3 times, and after scrutinizingly examining them, he ascertained that attraction for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the highest perfection of religion.
So when Sukdev Goswami is saying Nahi Atonya Shiva Panta, that there is no other auspicious path, then like people in the assembly may think that, is that your opinion? No, is that your opinion that there's no other? I may have a different opinion. No. Here is a proof. And here he's saying, Bhagwan Brahma Karsnaneya, by summarization. So I say, nice words in there. First is by summarization. So Brahma, what do you do? First summarization, then Anviksha Trir. He's scrutinizedly studying. Trir means 3 times. Okay, 3 times. And then Manishaya, with scholarly attention. And then Kutastha, concentration of the mind. And then after studying the entire Vedas 3 times, what did he conclude? Adhyavasyat. Adhyavasyat means he ascertained. He concluded. What did he conclude? Rati. Ratir Atma Yato Bhave. That the highest perfection of everything is to actually have Rati, or attraction for the Supreme Personality. And only bhakti will actually give you that attraction for Krishna, right? And hence, Sukdev Goswami is saying, yes, I'm making this claim. I'm saying there's no other auspicious path, but here is the proof. Brahma has studied 3 times, he's scrutinized, he's studying the entire Vedas, and he's actually, focused his mind and he's analyzed everything. And finally, he's concluded that other than attraction to Krishna, there is nothing else which the Vedas will bring. Right? That is the conclusion of everything, is the highest perfection is to actually get ratihi, that attachment to Krishna. So it is interestingly how Brahma actually studied this, and we can also like learn how to study Shastra. First it says Trir. Trir means what? 3 times. Actually, one devotee says, you have not read a book unless you have read it 3 times. So, someone says, well, there's so much to read, the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion, and then so many other books like Disciples of Prabhupada. It's like unlimited. Now, on top of that, you say like, you have not read a book unless you have read it 3 times. Then it's like, when will I read everything, right? But this is a real nectar, right? So Keshav Maharaj, he makes this point. It's like, it's a third reading when you're really understanding what is there in the book. Right? So one is 3 times. Think about it. Our goal, at least in this lifetime, all Prabhupada's 3 times we have to study. How? Scrutinizingly study. Not just like,
So 3 times you read back to back, or you read and get back to it whenever you can again? Because when you do that, it feels like I'm reading for the first time again.
Yeah. It depends like how you want to do it. Like personally, like I feel when we are doing this Bhakti Vaibhav, because we want to, like what we are reading, we want to be thorough, is actually read it 3 times. Because like even during the class, we don't cover so many verses. Like every week we have like maybe like 15, 20 pages to read. That's like nothing. You can actually read it 3 times during the week. If you can actually read it 3 times during the week, then you'll be like, big deal. This is what is there in the Bhagavad. And even like when Krishna sees our sincerity, the 3 times we are studying, then he'll reveal more and more secret. It's not that First time we read, then second time it's like, oh, I just read it. No. This is active reading. We are talking to Krishna, right? Bhagavatam is talking to Krishna, right? And it's a conversation. So once you said something, then again you're going back, repeating the same point. Now there are newer points that come, newer realization. So you can say that way, as 3 times. Then also Manishaya. Manishaya means scholarly attention. What does that mean? How can you study Shastra scholarly? Why has Prabhupada given word to word? When you're actually reading the verse, you see word to word. And let's say this verse, okay, it says Bhagavan. Bhagavan is who? And then it says Brahma. So is it talking of Bhagavan or is it talking of Brahma? Like Bhagavan, normally we say Krishna. Other personalities are also referred to as Bhagavan. But here, like normally we say Bhagavan Krishna. Then Brahma, it talks of Brahma, right? So is that the right understanding, that Krishna and Brahma? Or if you see word to word, Prabhupada has translated Bhagavan as who? Brahma. And Brahma as who? Vedas. Right? So we see, like, when you're doing word to word, then it's like so interesting. Bhagavan as Brahma, Brahma as Veda. Where else we actually read the word Brahma as Veda? Very famous verse. 1.1.1. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikave. Right? Adikave is Brahma. So what is Brahma there? That knowledge, that Veda. Right? So again, we see the same thing. So when we actually go word to word, then we are actually scholarly understanding. And when you actually see this word to word, then one may say, okay, here Prabhupada is giving the explanation that Brahma studied 3 times. Now Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is taking the same word and he's actually saying, here, actually Bhagavan is referring to Krishna. And Brahma is still referring to the Vedas here. So he's saying, actually Krishna himself, Krishna himself, he actually studied the Vedas of, and this is a pastime that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is referring. That Krishna actually, he enacted this pastime of a sage, and he studied the Vedas of all the different Brahmas. Right? So infinite number of Brahmas are there. So he studied the Vedas from each one of those Brahmas, and then he actually studied all of those 3 times, and he concluded the same. Right? Rati to Krishna. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that this Bhagavan actually refers to Krishna himself coming in a form of like enacting the pastime of a sage to actually, and he studied the Vedas. So see how nice the verse is. So you say Bhagavan Brahma. So Bhagavan could refer to Brahma or Bhagavan could refer to Krishna. So in both ways, the conclusion is the same. Right? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also quotes, Shruti says, Sa Munir Bhutva Samachintya. The Lord became a sage and then he contemplated the infinite Vedas recited by the infinite Brahmas. And then finally he came to the conclusion that Rati to Krishna is the highest perfection. Okay. Now what does Rati mean? We actually see, what is it, Rati?
Attachment.
Attachment, yeah, strong attachment.
Attraction.
Attraction, yeah.
The prema.
So prema, Rati could be said as first step of prema, first stage.
Okay.
So if you actually see even in the 9, Adho Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajan Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Ashakti. Ashakti, that Ashakti stage itself can be compared to Rati, because that Ashakti itself means firm attachment in Krishna. So Rati. So even which is that verse in the first canto, 19th chapter, text 16. Punascha bhuya bhagavati anante. Rati prasangasya tad ashrayesha. So this is also one of the famous verses from memorization. What is Parikshit Maharaj praying there? He says, Punasta bhuya. Even if I have to take birth again, what do I want? Bhagavati ratihi. I want attachment to Krishna. It's the same word. And even in Bhishma Dev's prayers, he actually makes the same point. That finally we want that rati, we want that natural attraction to Krishna. We want our heart to run towards Krishna, we want to fall in love with Krishna. Right? So that is the perfection of all the Vedas. And Brahma, Krishna himself studied the Vedas 3 times. So there's no doubt that nahi atonya shiva panta. There's no other auspicious path than devotional service to Krishna. Now, practically for us also, I know I have discussed this, like when we study Shastra, you know the 4 parts, right, of studying Shastra. We have talked about this before. So one is Shravanam, which is actually hearing or reading, right? Second is Mananam. Mananam means recollection. Okay, we read something and then we think about it. What was the point? What did we read? Like we do Bhagavatam reading every day. Then during the day, we actually think, okay, what was the main point? What was the essence? Mananam. Then third is Nididhyasana.
Nididhyasana.
So recollection. The Nididhyasana is basically contemplation. What was where we are actually. So one is recollecting, and then beyond that we say, how does this section apply to my life? How does this section apply to my bhakti? What can I actually change in my life, in my quality, in my character, which actually I can apply from this what I'm doing. Right? How is this relevant? And also in contemplation, one can think that, oh, Bhishma Dev actually, he also prayed for Rati, and then Parikshit Maharaj also prayed for Rati, and here we have Brahma, he's also concluding with this Rati, and then Krishna himself has concluded Rati. So hence, we have these 4 examples that they have already proved Rati. So we actually think about all this. So recollection, there's Mananam, there's Nididhyasana, and then finally, there is Kirtanam and Pathanam. So Pathanam is where we recite, right? When we actually read something, then we recite shlokas, right? Or we actually Kirtanam, we speak about this. Right? We mentioned this last time, right? When we see each other, we should say, okay, one point I really like in Bhagavatam that we have to tell each other. We have to, it's like almost a matter of cultivating the culture. And when we see each other, normally we say, yes, Hare Krishna, how are you? But beyond that, we say, oh, that point I really like. I read this in Bhagavatam. This is so good. It could be very quick, a short point. But let's try to create the culture. And that is basically devotee association means to actually come and discuss Harikatha, to speak Harikatha. So that is Kirtana or Patana. Right? So we see that aspect of it. Okay. So let's see. And then also one more point that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is actually making. When it says Kutastha, you see the Sanskrit, it says Kutastha with concentration on the mind, Ratihi. So one way Kutastha could also refer to the Brahma with concentration on the mind, Stadita Veda. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that Kutastha could also refer to Ratihi. That with concentration of a mind or with a mind completely dedicated to Ratihi, to Krishna. So it could also be like Kutastha Rati, the complete absorption in Krishna. The Rati, the complete absorption. Next verse. Let's go to text. Who's next? We're just seeing alphabetically. And Gopinath.
Bhagavan sarvabhuteshu lakshitas swatmana hari drisher buddhyad adibhi drishta lakshanair anumapakai. The personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, is in every living being, along with the individual soul. And this fact is perceived and hypothesized in our acts of seeing and taking help from the intelligence.
So this is actually a long purport, and it's very interesting. So Prabhupada actually gives us purport on basis of Jiva Goswami's explanation to this word. So basically, what is the connection between this and the previous verse? So in the previous verse, it says one should actually attain Ratihi to Krishna. Right? Now, how does the Jiva see Krishna? So Ratihi, that prema is in 5 different mellows, right? What is that? Shanta, Dasya, Vatsalya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhuri. Right? 5. Now in Shanta, in the first one, right? How does one see the Lord? That is basically explaining this. And further, we'll come to a remaining rasa in the next verse. But that is one way of seeing the connection. How does one who is in Shanti, in the Shanta Ratihi, how does he see the Lord? So he sees the Lord as Bhagwan Sarva Bhuteshu. He sees the Lord in all living entities. Swa Atman. along with the self. Atma and Paramatma, right? Atma, Paramatma. Swa, Atmana. So he says, Sarva Bhuteshu, he sees Bhagavan, Sarva Bhuteshu, and Swa Atmana, along with the self, Harihi, Drishya, by what is seen. And then further this verse says, and this fact about seeing Paramatma along with the Atma is perceived and hypothesized in our acts of seeing and taking help from the infinite. Now, what does this mean? What does this mean? This verse is actually very powerful. No? It says, Drishya Buddhi Adibhi, by what is seen by our intelligence. Or Drashta Lakshanai Anupma Pakahi, by our hypothesis. So Prabhupada starts off by purport, and he says the general argument of the common man is, since the Lord is not visible to our eyes, how can we surrender to him? Right? So we say in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sarva Dharan Parityaja Mam Ekam Sharanam Vaja. Now someone will say, you're talking of surrender Krishna, but I don't see him. How can I surrender to him? So what's the answer to that question? If someone comes and says, you're saying Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is asking us to surrender, but I don't see Krishna, how can I surrender to him? What's the answer?
They're like materialists, so that we can ask them to surrender on the Virat Rupa.
Okay, like, okay, we are reading a section of Virat Rupa. Okay, that's okay. That could be one way.
Because they are saying that they cannot see the Lord, but these are all Lord's energies, right?
So the first chapter is basically talking of first step in God realization. So we can point them that, oh, don't you see this creation? Right? Okay, that's one answer. Okay.
Prabhuji, surrender means that firm faith that Krishna will always maintain me. Krishna is the only protector.
But still the question is like, where is Krishna? Yeah, I'll surrender, but I don't see Krishna. How will I surrender to him?
His representatives, the Guru.
I think it is here.
But surrender means Saranagati, right, Prabhuji?
Yeah, Sharanagati is surrender, the same one.
All those 5, 6 steps.
But where is?
Yeah, but see, the question is not about Sharanagati. The question is, yes, conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is Sharanagati to Krishna. But I don't see Krishna, how will I surrender? So that answer about like, okay, you surrender to Guru, who will actually show us Krishna. That is a good answer. So Prabhupada starts off and says, for devotee, from devotional perspective, how can we actually say? We can actually make the argument that, Krishna is like, how Prabhupada gives it. You cannot just, if someone says like, okay, work, like be a good citizen. The president has certain laws, so you follow. And one may say, I don't see the president. But the powers of president are everywhere. The laws of the God are everywhere. So you can actually say Arundhati Mata's point also. Yes, everything here in the nature is happening according to someone's law, right? But if you actually follow the process, then you can see, right? And that's basically in Bhagavad Gita how Krishna says, well, in the Shastra it says, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhave kayam indi. From our blunt senses, we cannot see Lord, right? But Sevan Mukhe Jivada. So there's a process. Yes, you are surrendering, but you actually start the process and Krishna will reveal himself to you. Right? So yes, it's not that Krishna is an abstract personality. No. As soon as you take the process, Krishna will reveal. So that is our process of devotion. So we start with a little Shraddha, that yes, that is a little faith, right? So we say, yes, let me do the process. Let me take the chanting. Let me take to the hearing. Let me do some devotion service. And then Krishna will reveal. Krishna will reveal. That way you'll know Krishna. So that is the way bhakti, a devotional perspective. Now, next part of this verse. So that is just, that is the first part Prabhupada says. He gives a devotional answer to this, right? He also quotes Tesham Sata Yuktam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam Dadami Buddhi Yogam. When you actually do Bhajatam Priti Purvakam, engage in service, then Dadami, Krishna will give you intelligence. Now, the next aspect is for a common man, right? So, so that's the devotional answer, but let's see another answer. This is Jiva Goswami explaining this. So it's a little technical, but it's very wonderful. Right? So Prabhupada says, the presence of Paramatma in everyone's company is not very difficult to realize. Is it difficult or not difficult? Because this verse is actually talking about in terms of hypothesis, in terms of using our intelligence. He's saying Prabhupada is making the point, if we use our intelligence, then we cannot deny the presence of Paramatma. Now, wouldn't we want to know that how with our intelligence we can actually establish Paramatma in our heart? Because this is very nice, right? Because you can actually explain to others also. No, Paramatma is there, right? And we can actually use our intelligence and actually prove the existence of Paramatma. So Prabhupada is doing that. That's very nice. Right? So first point in this. First point is, do you all exist? Do you exist? Yes. No one can deny that, right? So yes, I am there, I'm certainly there. So we say that we are exist. So we perceive that, okay, I am there. But then I will say, okay, you are accepting that you exist. Can you point to yourself? Point to yourself. How do you point to yourself? You point to your head? That's your head. Right? It's your body. Where is me? Where is that I? Where is that existence we're talking about? How can you point to it? Right?
We usually point at the heart, right?
But that's also right. That's the heart. Okay? This is body. The heart that pumps blood.
But that's where the soul is also there, I think.
Well, so right now we are going step by step.
Step by step.
A person who has no acceptance of soul and super soul. Step by step we are trying to see. Right? So first point is we exist. No one can deny that. Right? Now we can say, well, this is the body. If I cut off my hand, do I still exist? Yes, I can deny. I lose a part, some organ, I still exist. So certainly the body, the hand, if I go blind, I still exist. So all these senses and the body cannot be said to be me, because without that I still exist. Agree up to this point? Okay. So proper first point here is that if we just use a little intelligence, then we can distinguish that his body is different from who I am. When I say I exist, that existence is different from this body. Because this body, like, I lose my hand, yeah, I still exist. So that my existence is different from that. So that is the first point that proves that beyond this body, that is a self. Okay. So this first point is okay? Everyone? Okay. Now we go to the second point. And further purposes, with little use of intelligence. Okay. Now let's say we are seeing. Okay. We say we are seeing. Now this sight, even to see, we are actually dependent on so many different energies. Now if all of a sudden, like, it's a dark room, can you see? No, your eyes are there, but still you're not seeing anything. Like, there may be so many objects in a room, but without that energy of light, you cannot see anything, right? So even our power of functioning is dependent on different energy. Right? So Prabhupada takes that to the next point. The second point here is that so just the power to see or to act, it depends on different aspects of energy, which is actually supplied by nature. So you say, like, okay, to see, I need light. But where is light coming from? Did you create light? No, we didn't create light. Light is coming from nature, right? So we are dependent even for our functioning on some energy, right? And what we are perceiving, like, okay, that is a phone or an object. This object is also a combination of different energies, right? Earth, water, fire, air, ether. Different energies are there. Right? So at this point, we can say that yes, this body itself, this instrument of I, is different from who I am. This is also some aspect of material energy, and the object I'm perceiving is also a matter of material energy. Okay? So everything around me, including this body, is all material. Okay? Now, who is the seer here and who is seen? Like, I'm not going to that devotional answer of that Krishna. We have not come to that point. But here, in this, up to this point, we'll say, well, actually, the real self, which is different from the body, he's the seer and he's seeing something. And that seeing is possible only by the senses which are given by nature and the light which is given by nature. Okay. So second point here is that we are actually dependent on the side, the organs, the energy that has been given to us by which we actually function in this material. Right? So again, this actually first and second point actually proves that the one who is seer, is the spirit, and the senses, the object of perception, they are all material. And hence, okay, and then one more point here, will actually conclude this first section, is that in spite of, okay, so now we say that yes, I am the seer as a spirit. In spite of seeing so many objects, I actually feel a sense of dissatisfaction. Right? We may see something and it's like, oh, I'm not happy with it. So this actually, up to this point, it proves that there is a difference between spirit and mind. Why? Because I am feeling a sensation of dissatisfaction, but any object that I see, there's a glass and there's a thermos feel dissatisfaction. No, there's no feelings, right? But I have feelings. That means I am different from matter. My body is different from matter, and hence there is difference between spirit and matter. Okay, up to this point, and now we are going to prove the existence of super soul. So till this point, everyone is okay. It's like a logic, we are trying to build upon it.
Prabhuji, please explain this point of dissatisfaction.
Yeah. So you accept that I am different from the body and everything around me. Right? Because we already went to the starting that, that I need all these, the organ, the energy, everything to function. But if I lose my eyesight, I still exist. But someone has given this. So that is the body. So everything the body is made of and all the nature is material. But I am different. And spirit. Now, to prove that point further is, after establishing this, I can say this pen, even if I bend it, push it, does it have feelings? It's not going to resist. When someone comes and hits me, I have feelings. Or say something, I feel dissatisfied. So that is a difference because the spirit is now conscious and everything else. We are sentient. There's some life. Someone says something, immediately feel, why did he say that? Or he said something like, oh, thank you so much. I feel so happy. That's an emotion. So that itself proves the spirit. That point.
Thank you.
Now, that is the first 2 points. Now, now the third point is, from this, how can we prove the existence of Paramatma? So if we stop the discussion on spirit and matter, then what is the flaw at this point? Like, how is this logic up to spirit and matter not complete? Okay, so now the next point is say, okay, so even after this, okay, spirit and matter, I understand this point. Now, beyond this, there is someone who is arranging in such a way that I have a particular kind of body, and you also are spirit surrounded with matter, have a different kind of body. Who is organizing? Karma itself has no life. It is just some rule. But who is organizing the law of karma? Who is giving a particular, like, this same example can be extended to animals. Animals also, a cow has vision, that also the spirit and matter. Now, who decided that the cow would have a body like a cow, whereas we have a body like human being? So that is something about us which has acted upon us to actually give us a particular kind of organ, a particular kind of body. So that is the aspect of karma. And beyond that, so that's you can say that this is point 3a. Okay? And point 3b here is even to think in this way, right? As a spirit soul, it is in a conditioned state, right? It is surrounded by this matter. So even to think this way, to make a discrimination between matter and spirit, and to understand that karma is acting upon each one of us, we need intelligence. But who is providing that? who is providing that intelligence to me. Is it my intelligence like as a energy? No, intelligence, that's also material. When my mind is actually material. So if the mind and intelligence is material, then that cannot be the way I can actually make this analysis. Someone above me is giving me intelligence to think in this way. Just like a father may give intelligence to a son and say, oh, you know, this is how you look at the world. This is how you understand how the car functions. You know? So similarly, there is someone else who is giving intelligence. And that someone else is actually, so Prabhupada explains that intelligence gives one direction like some higher authority. And the living entity is dependent on intelligence or direction of a superior being. And that intelligence is actually given by. Because on our own, we cannot even analyze all this. So that intelligence is actually proves the point that is common. Okay, this is okay. I know it's like we are not used to like understand things in terms of like building a logic. But because this verse is actually saying that one can perceive the Lord in everyone's heart by that analysis, by logic, hence Prabhupada and Jiva Goswami elaborate on this. So can you prove now that there is existence of someone beyond us who is giving us intelligence to actually even think, to function in this world? That aspect is Paramatma. Like we have to call that aspect some name, right? So we are calling it Paramatma. Now the next point is, so now if I go back and say, okay, I started with the body, I came to the soul, I came to the Paramatma. Now I have a choice. Either I identify the self with the body and say that, oh, the body and the self are the same. Then if I'm actually doing that identification, then it is a flaw in my initial principle of there is a difference between matter and spirit. So one choice is I stay in that illusion and I am actually remain in that false material identification and think that I am the possessor, I am the doer, and so on. That is one choice we have. The second choice we have is we accept that yes, I am different from this body, and that is the aspect of Paramatma who is giving me intelligence. So if I accept that, then our whole point is to recognize that Paramatma is our friend, he is our guide, and he is the one who is giving us intelligence. Like in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna talks about how mind can be best friend or worst enemy, what the verse after that he says? He actually says, one who has conquered the mind, the Paramatma is already reached. You have already achieved Paramatma. How? Because if you, right now, the mind is so active, oh, I have to do this, that, and this is all going on. But if you are able to control the mind, you can hear the intelligence that Paramatma is giving you. If you can control the mind, because the Paramatma is our friend, he's our guide, he's giving us intelligence, but we cannot hear it because it's so loud. This noise of the mind and our desire to enjoy is so loud that we cannot hear it. Just like if there's a too loud, music going on, and some friend is coming and telling you, you have an important call. There's something important to do. You cannot hear it. It's just so loud. Similarly, our mind is so loud that we cannot hear it. But Krishna is saying, if our mind is controlled, then Paramatma is already. Okay, so the two choices we have is we continue on the path of illusion by analyzing, by identifying the Paramatma as a body, or we say that yes, that is someone who is giving me intelligence. That is actually, that personality is my friend. So accepting the super soul as the friend and the guide, that is the real, the best thing to do out of these two options. Okay. Now, one may say, okay, further we take the point. So Paramatma is actually giving us instructions, right? And then whatever desires we have to enjoy even in this material world, it is a Paramatma who is fulfilling through the three modes of material nature. Now, when we say God is great, is the role of God only limited to giving fulfilling the desires of each one of us? No, then why would you say God is great? So then from this point, it actually takes Prabhupada takes the discussion to the next level, and he actually says that God is great and he cannot simply be an order supplier of the self. Therefore, this aspect of Paramatma is just an aspect of the is just one of the aspects of the original God who is great. And that actually proves the point that beyond the Paramatma, there is the existence of a personality who is actually seated in our heart as Paramatma and who is giving us information. So step by step, like one is actually starting off from the point of how we are not the body, we are spirit, and then building upon that and saying that, oh yes, that has to be a Paramatma. Other, how can I think? How am I getting intelligence? And beyond that, God cannot be just that aspect of Paramatma. There has to be someone beyond that. And that is. So it is a lot of like, logical analysis. But if someone is, if someone wants to understand the presence of God in this way, this is a nice part that you can take to explain them that this is how we can prove that yes, that is a God. God exists. Normally, if someone comes and asks you, oh, you're Hare Krishna, you go to the temple every Sunday, can you prove God exists? What will you say? No, I cannot prove. I just, they told me it's nice, so that's why I'm doing it. Is that what you do? How do you know God exists?
Just looking at the nature around us, we can tell God exists on how he controls everything. And there's a superpower that we only can't see with our limited perception, but once you start the process, you can realize that his presence is there in every action.
So Prabhupada actually in the morning walk, he asked this, like, how do you know what I'm telling you is true? There are two different answers. And one morning walk, same question, Prabhupada said, well, one disciple actually said, well, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, all our acharyas actually. So you are making the same point, and Krishna is making, like all the scriptures are making the same point. And Krishna scriptures are eternal because they have knowledge about everything that exists. So certainly, we cannot deny scriptures because even before our scientific advancement, there was knowledge in the scripture which is just being rediscovered, which is already there. So how can we deny the scripture? And scripture is actually making a very nice presentation of who God is. So yes, we believe. Prabhupada, what is saying, we believe you because Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is making the same point that you are saying. Another place, Prabhupada said, how can you know God exists? And one devotee actually made the point. He said, when I chant Hare Krishna, I can feel the presence of Krishna. And Prabhupada said, yes, that's how we know God. Like at this point, like initially in our bhakti, there may be doubts, is Krishna really there? But now, at this stage, as we progress in bhakti, at a particular point, Krishna is like, even someone may come and give us so much philosophy and say, all you believe is all nonsense. This is this, and explain me in like so much way. Like, whatever you say. Even philosophically, you make a point, I will not accept that God, Krishna learned like this. Because I have felt Krishna. I feel the presence of Krishna. When I chant Hare Krishna, I feel that reciprocation. Krishna is there. Even I may not be able to defeat you philosophically, but I know Krishna is there. So that's the point. And here the point is, okay, if someone wants to go logically, yes, logically also we can prove that yes, there is a super soul, and yes, beyond that, that is God. But for us, our faith is beyond logic because we feel Krishna is present. Now, if any one of us tells, okay, today you're not going to chant Hare Krishna, it's almost like, no, this is what I want to do. This is what my life is meant for. I want to do it. And it's almost like a big obstacle in front of us. Someone tells us not to chant Hare Krishna. Why? Okay, one may say, I have taken a vow to Guru. No, beyond that, we feel Krishna. We have a connection with Krishna. It is there. But when we actually, if someone gives an obstacle, then we realize how much our connection with Krishna is really there. Yes. Even if people say, okay, I'll give you $1 million, stop chanting Hare Krishna. No, thank you. I'm not going to leave chanting Hare Krishna. Krishna is right there. I feel Krishna. I will continue. Okay, that's okay. Okay, so let's continue. So anyway, read through the, maybe you've already read, but now read through the purport with these 5 points that I went through, right? And how step by step Jiva Goswami and Prabhupada are establishing this point of how God actually is. And this is good for preaching and also good for our conviction. Okay, let's go next.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
So sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Prabhuji, how, the last point, can you repeat? There is someone beyond Paramatma.
Yeah.
The Paramatma is not meant for just to fulfill your desires.
Yeah.
So the next one is, how can we prove there is personality of Godhead? Can you explain that part?
Yeah. So that point, like as Prabhupada explained, he's saying like God is great. We say like, if God has created all this material world, he's created all this, everything that's happening is, it's the laws of God. Then that great God cannot be just simply an order supplier. There has to be something beyond that. Why he's created this entire material world? Why all these laws are there? There is someone beyond just like an order supplier, who is actually right there. He's there somewhere. And that Paramatma was manifested in the heart of every living entity, that has to be just a manifestation. Because like beyond, if you see like, the world at the more like a cosmic level, like Prabhupada made the point, who is keeping the planets floating? If we restrict God to just the aspect of Paramatma in the heart, there has to be someone beyond who's designed all this, who's designed a body, who's designed material laws, who's designed at the cosmic level, at the at the microscope level. Everything is happening. There has to be someone, right, beyond just the aspect of Paramatma. In that aspect is the
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, you can read through a purport, Mati. I know it's like, one may say like, well, it doesn't connect so well, but you read the purport, and then, then what points I made, that will become formed that, okay, this is why Prabhupada is building upon the logic in that. So we'll continue. Next number. Please.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's my turn, right?
Okay, you can go ahead.
Okay. Text 36. Tasmat sarvatma rajan hari sarvatra sarvada shrotavyah kirtitavyascha smartavyo bhagavan nrunam. Translation, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O King, it is therefore essential that every human being hear about, glorify, and remember the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, always and everywhere. Hare Krishna.
So tasmat means what? Therefore. We see many verses where it says tasmat. Therefore. Now why therefore? So one can say from connection from text 34 and from text 35. So when 34 he said that there is no other auspicious path than to engage in devotional service to Krishna. And then in relationship to 34, he's saying, therefore, what do? Tasmat sarvata mana rajan, hari sarvata sarva shrotavya kirtavya smartavya se bhagwan vinam. So he's saying that because there is no other auspicious path of bhakti yoga, therefore you engage in the acts of bhakti. And what is that? You chant Krishna's name, you hear about Krishna, and you remember Krishna. Right? So that is one tasma. Now the second meaning of tasma could mean, this one Vishwanath Chakravarti, he says from text the previous 35, is said that the Lord is present everywhere in the heart of every living entity. Therefore, you should always sarvatra sarvada, because the Lord is everywhere. He's beyond time. He's beyond like circumstance. Therefore, everywhere and always you should hear, you should chant, and you should remember that Supreme Person who is all powerful, is everywhere. So you see the connection of Tasmat. It could refer to Tasmat from 34. You do bhakti, that's the best thing. Therefore, you chant here and you remember Krishna. Or it could mean Tasmat as because Krishna is everywhere. Therefore, every time you should actually chant, remember, and hear. Okay? Is this 2 points clear? This one? Okay. So this is also a very important verse, one of the verses for memorization. Tasmat Sarvatmana Rajan. So he's saying, O King, Sarvatmana. So all of us, all souls, because the Paramatma is in the heart of every living entity. Therefore, everyone, Sarvatmana, whether he says to be Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Indian, whatever is his identity, the Lord is in the heart of every living being. Therefore, everyone, Sarvatmana, everyone should what? Hari, Sarvatra Sarvada. This is very nice. Sarvatra means everywhere, and Sarvada means always. So there is no how is it Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shakti. No hard and fast rules. Anywhere you can chant, everywhere you can chant. See, everywhere we should chant. And always, should I do it in the morning and then remaining day I will not do? No. Every time, everywhere, we have to chant. And to remember, we should worship them. That is the conclusion of Sukadeva Goswami, right? Based on the previous 2 verses.
Prabhuji, this verse is exactly the same as the first chapter of Canto 2, number 5, right? Again, repetition.
Which verse you said, Mati? Yeah, the
Two-
similar verse.
215.
Yes.
215. Exactly same.
215. Exactly. 215. And then also, even 1 to 4 is actually 1 to 14. Sorry, first canto, second chapter, text 14. Tasmat ekena manasa Bhagwan Sarvatam Pati Shrotavya Kirtitavyasya Dheya Pujyasya Nityada. 1 to 14. Similar. Right? So again and again we are coming to the same point. In all circumstances, at all times, one should hear, glorify, and that's the personality of God. So Prabhupada in purport he talks about 9 methods of bhakti: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Sakyam, Atmanivedam. But he says the most important of them is what? What's the most important of them?
Shravanam.
Shravana. Sometimes we say Kirtanam, right? But both of them are related. You cannot do Kirtanam unless you do Shravanam. So both of them. So hearing, right? So hearing. Most important is hearing. And then Prabhupada makes this wonderful statement. You should memorize this. Without hearing sufficiently and properly, no one can make any progress by any of the methods of without sufficiently and properly, without hearing sufficiently and properly. Right? Sufficiently means what? What does sufficiently practically mean to you, and what does properly practically mean to you?
Giving enough time and paying attention.
Yeah, giving enough time. And what is enough time? 1 hour a day?
Regular practice every day.
Yes.
Huh?
Every day.
Okay, but every day, 1 hour every day?
Every moment, Prabhuji.
Every time.
That's exactly the verse is saying, right? Sarvatra, sarvada.
With that.
Every moment you have to hear about
Each and every moment.
every moment. So practically, what does it mean? At least regularly we have to do. This is the minimum, right? Minimum everyday chanting, everyday hearing Bhagavatam, every day. That is just every day. So that is one aspect of sarvada, right? That can be every day. But beyond that, even within a day, as much as possible, we fill our hearing with Krishna Katha, we remember Krishna, we chant about Krishna as much as possible. Okay, and then, okay, Prabhupada actually makes this point. He says, when we stop hearing, so now we made the point that we should hear as much as possible, right? When we stop hearing, we become a victim of hearing rubbish transmitted by man-made machines. What is man-made machines? Right here. Man-made machine. So, as soon as we stop hearing about Krishna, then we'll hear all sorts of nonsense. We'll be hearing something or the other, or we'll be thinking something or the other. We don't think Krishna, then we're thinking nonsense. So So Prabhupada says machines as such are not bad. The same man-made machine, right? It can take us away from Krishna, or it can actually be used in Krishna's service. Actually, cell phone one way is actually a blessing if you use it for the right utility. Just click on YouTube, unlimited lectures, audio.iscon desire tree, unlimited lectures, and then there's so many live lectures and so much Harikatha all around the world. There's Sarvatra everywhere. You can have access just by this one instrument. But the same instrument can take us away from Krishna. So we have that choice. But then Prabhupada makes this point. It says actually for human beings, if we actually use it for anything not related to Krishna, it will lead to a rapid degradation. Right? And then further it says, hence for every human being, because we have got this special form of life, human being, it is incumbent. Prabhupada uses the word incumbent. Okay, incumbent. It is actually, that means it is a duty or responsibility for each one of us to hear Bhagavad Gita and share. Recently, we had a book table, and I gave Bhagavad Gita to one person. He said, like, he was from the Sikh tradition. So he said, like, what you're giving Bhagavad Gita? I have my own Grantha Sahib, but I have like no time to read. So I have no time at all. What will I do by taking another Bhagavad Gita? I don't have time to read even my Grantha. I actually mentioned this one. I said, like, this is so important that this is not a question that whether you have time. It is a point that you have to make time. You have to make time. This is so important because without this, human form of life is wasted. So important. If someone says, I don't have time, say, this is so important that we have to make time for it. Otherwise, what are we busy with? I didn't ask him, but I was actually thinking, I should ask, like, because he was saying that I'm so busy, I have no time. What are you busy with? Oh yeah, busy job, or busy this, busy that. What are all these? In a moment of flash, everything will be taken away. And that's what you're busy with. And then after everything is taken away, what will you do? You may become a dog in your same house, like that's what you want. So, philosophy is so clear, like it's just like. Okay, another wonderful point Prabhupada says, so it is important we have to make time. And then one point Prabhupada says, is the chastity of our ear and tongue. How like a chaste wife, she is devoted to her husband. She won't actually go to other men. Her faith is to her husband. Similarly, the chastity of her ears. Now, who does this ear belong to? Rishikesh. Right? All our senses actually belong to the master of senses. Who is that? Rishikesh. Right? So our chastity. So and that way we are all the wife of Krishna. Even in our male body, we are still the wife of Krishna. So if we are really chaste, then we'll use our hearing and speaking. Right? Krishna. And then further in third canto, we'll read further about this. That if we don't use it, then it is compared to who knows that? If we don't use our mouth for Krishna Katha, then it is compared to what?
Talking of the frogs.
Talking of a frog. Right? A frog makes all the sound. But what is it attracting? The snake is actually hearing. When will the frog make the sound? Then I can go and eat it.
Yeah.
So similarly, if we're not using our mouth for Krishna's, for glorifying Krishna, then we are just inviting death. Then we'll come to that verse, right? Ayur Harati Vaipumsan, Udyan Astan Yan Asa. If we're using our mouth and tongue for glorifying Krishna, then our life is eternal. Otherwise, for everyone, with the rising and setting of the sun, life is just being taken. The serpent is just coming closer and closer, hearing our croaking. Except for those who are chanting Krishna. So chastity of a ear, hearing and tongue is just to glorify Krishna. And then another wonderful point Prabhupada said, hearing is solidified by the process of chanting. So practically, actually, if you see, if you see the morning program the Prabhupada has designed, it is so perfect that when we actually do japa, we are doing kirtan, right? We are chanting the names of Krishna. After that, when we actually hear, then our hearing is very powerful. Like let's say if we just get up and we attend Bhagavatam class, then our absorption is still like, we see our mind is covered still with the mode of ignorance and all those coverings, or this dream, I saw this, and then I was flying in the air. All those thoughts are there. Our consciousness is not pure. When we get up, we chant Hare Krishna, then our consciousness is pure. And then we hear Hari Katha, then immediately we are like a sponge. We can just absorb everything. Otherwise, that sponge is filled with so much water, there's no room for absorption. Because all our dreams, ignorance, everything is there. So Prabhupada said, hearing is solidified by the process of chanting. The morning program, japa, then Bhagavatam class. It's perfect. Okay. So that's that verse. And the last verse we'll do, and then we'll stop. So text 37. Another very important verse and very beautiful verse. Also verse from memory. So if you see the last few verses, from 33 to 37, we had Nahi Atonya Shiva Panta. That's a verse for memorization. Then we read the Tasmat Sarvatmana Rajan Hari Sarvata Sarvata, so important. And then the last one, Pivati Ye Bhagavata Atmana Sata. Let's read that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Pibanti ye bhagavat atmana satam katamritam shravanaputeshu sambritam punanti te vishaya vidusithasayam vrajanti takcharana saroru hantikam. Those who drink through the oral reception, fully filled with the nectarian message of Lord Krishna, the beloved of the devotees, purify the polluted aim of life known as material enjoyment, and thus go back to Godhead, to the lotus feet of Him, the personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
If you remember, previously we talked of Rati, and we said 5 kinds of Rati, right? Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhuri. Now for Shanta, what did we say? The common characteristic of Shanta is what? He sees Paramatma in the heart of everything. Like Paramatma, so Atmana, along with the Atma. Like he sees Krishna. But beyond that, the aspect of Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, all those 4, what is their experience? That is described in this verse. What is the perfection of their sadhana? What do they do? Pibanti ye Bhagavata Atmana. Pibanti means what? Drink. Which is another verse which has Pibanti.
Second verse, 1 point.
Third one.
Verse.
Third.
Go ahead.
Third verse. What's the verse?
Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam.
Yeah.
Nigama kalpataru.
Rasam alayam. We drink the nectar. So same. Pibanti ye Bhagavata Atmana Satam. Satam means what? Devotees. Now this Bhagavata is what? The one who is so dear to his devotee. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is actually saying that when we hear about Krishna, naturally we hear about the devotees of Krishna, because Krishna and his Bhagavata and Satam, they can never be separated. Wherever we talk of Narsimha, we talk glories of Prahlad Maharaj. We focus more on the glory of devotees than the glory of Krishna. We talk of Lord Ramchandra, we talk of glory of Hanuman. So that aspect. So Bhagavata Atmana Satam, the Lord who is like so dear to his devotees. Pibanti, we have to just drink. Kathamritam, right? What are we drinking? Katha Amritam. We have to drink the nectar of the glorification of the Lord and his devotees. Shravana Puteshu. Puteshu means almost like a cup. Like why is our ear shaped like this? Almost like a cup, right? Because it's meant to receive. We're supposed to like drink through that cup. And what are we drinking? Pibanti ye Bhagavata Atmasada. And it says Kathamritam. Amrita. We have to drink Amrita from this ear, from this cup. Right? And what is that Amrita? That Amrita is glorification of Bhagavata Atmasada. Shravana Puteshu. Puteshu is a cup. Sambrita. What does Sambrita mean? Like cup, can I drink like, this is a cup, I will just drink 1 drop Amrit. That's enough for me. No. Sambrita means full. Amritam, like Prabhupada translates word to word, as fully filled. So your cup of the year should be fully filled with Krishna Kathamrita. Right? It should be overflowing with Krishna Kathamrita. That is what that pure devotees do. When you actually do sadhana, you come to say, when you drink the nectar, it is so good that you cannot stop. And then it's like, it is so tasty drink. Your cup is there, and person is pouring, and he's saying, okay, it's almost set up. No, 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 give more, and it's overflowing. So give more, it's so tasty, I cannot stop. Keep. That's how we actually do it. But here is the cup. We just hear and hear. It's like, oh, so good. Please don't stop. This is Amrit I'm looking for. Right? Okay. Now, if we do that, then two benefits are given. Line 3 says, Punanti ye Vishaya Vidushita. Punanti means it purifies. Vishaya Vidushita. Vishaya means material enjoyment and polluted aim of life purposes. So if we are actually filling our cups with Kathamrita, right, Hari Kathamrita, then all our material false, all our polluted aim of life purposes, or all our desire for material enjoyment, that will get washed away, right? And what is the second benefit? Vrajanti, Vraj. Vraj means what? Sarva dharmam parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Vraja means what? Vrindavan. One meaning is Vrindavan, but Vraja also means to go. Right? So Vrajanti means go. Tat charana saroruhantika. Saroruhantika is like a lotus. The persons whose feet are like a lotus. Touch, you will Vrajanti, you will go back to the lotus feet of Lord. You will go back to Godhead, you will attain the lotus feet of Krishna. Okay? So this verse is ending, this chapter is ending with this beautiful verse that by drinking this nectarian message of Harikatha through the cups of our ear, two benefits are there. Our polluted aim of life is purified, and second point is actually we will attain the lotus feet of Krishna and go back home. So beautiful. So that's basically in the purport. Prabhupada talks about Prabhupada also talks about how can we change our lifestyle in such a way that we can actually always hear Harikatha. And that's why Prabhupada also stresses on this point of simple living, high thinking. Because if we actually make our life very complicated, then we have to give so much time to all these material aspects. Then we cannot so much relish Harikatha. If you have a simple life, you have more time to actually relish Harikatha. So Prabhupada talks about plain living, high thinking. Okay. So that is basically this chapter. So in this chapter, we have seen starting off from the point about living a very simple life, where he talks of what does it mean to live with minimum necessities, and then further coming to the point. So basically, in the first section, he rejected karma kanda. Then he came back to the answer about to answer Parikshit Maharaj's question about the two dharana shrayas. One is Virat Rupa, one is Paramatma. How do they attain liberation? And that's after describing that whole thing, he's concluding with his own point that I am concluding with the point that there is no other auspicious point method other than devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what does that devotional service mean? One should Shrotavya, Kirtitavya, Smartavya. We have to always, Sarvatra, Sarvada, hear about, chant, remember Krishna, and we have to fill our cups, overfill our cups with the nectar of Harikatha. And that's so beautiful. The last thing was very nice. Okay, so stop here. So any questions, and maybe everyone can share one realization from this today's discussion.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I really like the point that you said that God exists. One is that the scriptures say so, and also because of the personal experience, the happiness and bliss that we feel in devotional service, that is the proof that the God exists. I'll share a very small example quickly. Once a rabbi asked His Holiness Sachinanda Swami Maharaj that why you were born as a Christian, why you left Christ and you worship Krishna. He thought about and he said that because Krishna is very personal.
We are all, even we are new, we still have experienced some connection with Krishna. And once that is there, it's like, how can we leave? Krishna is there. You go Even if you leave, you'll come back. Krishna is so personal. Thank you. Okay.
Prabhuji, I have a quick question. You said that you gave them auspiciousness meaning, the meaning of auspiciousness, huh? And one of them, second one was you said that it attracts everyone. But Prabhuji, when we feel sometime, not only with us, with Prabhupada also had this experience, when the devotees go out for Harinam Sankirtan, some people are so envious that they even call the police, the devotees are arrested. And so why they are not attracted? And why it is not auspicious for them?
It's actually, everyone is attracted to Krishna. Everyone is attracted to Bhakti. It is because they see that someone here is obstructing my own sense gratification. This is attractive, but if I accept this, then it's something that I'll have to give up my sense. I am so, I am the Lord, I am the enjoyer. If I accept this, then that's going to be a problem. It's attractive, but I won't go there because I'm so in my own sense. Krishna, you just open your heart, Krishna is there. The more you know Krishna, the more you fall in love. He's attractive for everyone, but we create that barrier that we say, it's like a very beautiful thing. Like, let's say a nice food item is there, but it is a fasting day. You say, oh, Ekadashi, but let's say on Ekadashi, someone gives you like your favorite sweet, like pizza and gulab jamun. And it is so attractive at the time. I'm fasting the whole day and it's like so attractive. But you're like, okay, I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to look at it. So similarly, Krishna is so attractive, but we turn our faces like, so attractive. If I see, I'll fall in love with Krishna. So better I don't see. And that's why they say like, oh, no. Don't come to me. I am just happy on my own. That's one way of explaining. There's other ways also we can explain it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so quickly, it's just 3 minutes. So anyone else, quick realizations of today's class?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
I like the point that bhakti results in the Krishna prema, which is out of this material world.
No other process can give that prema that we are all looking for. Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji, like in both the cantos, first canto, second canto about the Pibat Bhagavatam. So it is so important that the key of bhakti is the hearing, how important it is. So it's all the time beneficial, and that is just through that only we can go to bhakti. Yeah.
Imagine Sukdev Goswami is saying, like he started the section with about sadhana bhakti, and he's concluding by saying that the perfection of sadhana bhakti is to fill our cups, overflow our cups with Krishna Katha. Our perfection is to always just keep hearing Krishna. And the more we are hearing, the more we are progressing. So important. Okay. Yes?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhuji, like the mind is so agitated that we cannot hear the voice of the Paramatma, Prabhu.
Okay.
I like the point that, I know people talk about, even ourselves talking about, I didn't have time, but it is so important that we have to make time, right? I just have to tell myself all the time.
So important.
And reading 3 times, that's also a big takeaway from me, because we read this through the week, but now I'm reading so many points we missed, Prabhu. So I'm like, I need to go back and read more.
And also scrutinizing, one thing that really helps is like when you write, you make notes. Like, okay, what is Prabhupada saying? Why is he saying this point? What is important? And you can, yourself, like, while in the purport, you actually write, okay, this purport is there. What are the points in this? First point, this is the main thing. And Prabhupada elaborates on that. Second point, this is the main thing. And then you'll see. You divide the purport in your, not paragraph wise, in your main points that you find in the purport. And you write it down, make your own notes. That I feel is so powerful.
Yeah.
Reading.
Because the way you spend time on in this one verse 35, step by step, read it, but it's not to the same level my understanding is now. It's different. So yeah, hearing is happening, Prabhu, but it's not sticking as much. It's feel good hearing. It's not sticking to, like you said, making notes and all that. It's just, it should come out every time.
Thank you. Very nice.
It is something like Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Name Kevalam, like in the Kala Sankara Upanishad, that 3 times if it is repeated. So it's have to do the reading also like that too.
Yes.
Actually, we are like, imagine previously, once they hear, not even read, they hear, they remember. It's like that's why no need of books, because it's like once I told you a shloka, that's it, you remember for your whole life. Bhakti Saraswati Thakur was like that. Once he heard, it's like, okay, I know. And now we like hear again and again and again and again, and still it's like, what was that point? Where was that? It's a Kali memory. In one way, that's like just inspiration for us to like keep reading, keep reading, keep reading. Thank you. So let's stop here. Thank you all so much for joining. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Panchakalpa Tarubhyasya, Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you for the association.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you all.
Hare Krishna, all devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you everyone for your association. Have a very nice Krishna conscious day. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.